The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Hello, everyone, and thank you so much for attending our webinar today. My name is Colleen Darty, and I am the Recruitment, Engagement, and Volunteerism Coordinator with NASPA. With us today, we have Amanda Garcia and Betzabel Martinez, both graduate students out of California. Amanda is a third-year master's student at California State University Long Beach in the Student Development and Higher Education Counseling Program. She works at Rio Hondo College as a student success coach, and at Pasadena City College as a Year 2 Pathways coach. Amanda also interns at Cypress College in the Career Center, and she can be reached at acgarcia227@gmail.com if anyone has any questions following today's webinar. Betzabel Martinez is a second-year master's student at the University of Southern California studying educational counseling. She also works at Rio Hondo College as a student success coach, and for the University of Southern California's Topping Scholars Program as a program coordinator. She served as an NASPA summer graduate intern for 2018 in Washington, D.C. Betzabel can be reached at bzmartin at usc.edu or on Twitter at higheredwithbets. So without further ado, I'm going to turn it over to the two of them. If anyone has any questions throughout today's webinar, you can put those questions into the questions tab into your GoToWebinar sidebar, and I'll be moderating your questions as we hear from Amanda and Betzabel today.
So hi everyone, thank you for joining us. Amanda and I are so excited to be here with you all today. We're actually together here at work. So we hope that today's conversation is a conversation between Amanda and I that you all can participate in. So again, I am Betzabel and this is Amanda.
Yeah, and we're really excited to discuss our role within community colleges. We have similar but very different experience, and we're really excited to talk about how you can magnify your lens.
Okay, so let's get started. So this year's Careers in Student Affairs theme has been magnifying your lens. So when we think about magnifying your lens, we really can reflect on our roles and the profession itself in student affairs in a way that our individual relationships with our students are not only impacting that student, but are actually impacting students across the institution, but also across other institutions. So institutions of higher education are not only impacting the direct community they serve, but are also impacting on a statewide, nationwide, and global impact. So specifically, when we think about the community college, we cannot view community colleges as institutions that are mutually exclusive. Community colleges impact the neighborhoods they serve and surround, other college systems in the state as well as out of state, and as well as other community colleges in state and out of state. And they even have an impact on graduate programs in the area. So Amanda and I have created a cute little visual for you all to see how specifically the California Community College, which is the system that we work in, impacts different sectors, both in state and out of state. So I'll let Amanda now go over the California Community College system.
Yeah, so the California Community Colleges are composed of 114 different community colleges, with one more on the way next fall, making it the largest higher education system in the nation. California Community Colleges, or CCCs, serve approximately 2.1 million students. And the vision for the CCCs is to empower the community colleges through leadership, advocacy, and support. So let's take a look at one of the stems, which would be the UC system.
So we have the University of California system, or UC system. So the UC system is a public college system here in California. We have 9 undergraduate serving campuses and 1 graduate serving campus. So as you can see the number here, this past fall term, 18,703 students transferred directly out of the California Community College system, and that's a large number. And so just to show you how important the partnership between the CCC and the UC is, the UC system has actually created a UC TAG program, which is short for UC Transfer Admission Guarantee, which is a program that 6 of the 9 campuses participate in. So basically, any California Community College student can apply to the UC TAG program, which guarantees them admission into one of 6 of the UC colleges if they meet all the eligibility requirements. So I myself went to the University of California, Santa Barbara, and UC Santa Barbara is one of the 6 campuses that participates in this UC TAG program. And so what makes this program so unique is that it's specifically between the CCC and the UC. So we're just talking about California here, but just goes to show the amazing partnership that the CCC has with the UC system. And now Amanda will discuss the CSU system.
Yeah, so another public system, we have the California State University system composed of 23 campuses all throughout California. And in 2018, there were approximately 60,000 transfers from the community college system to a CSU. And, Betzabel mentioned these partnerships. Well, the CSUs also have a partnership known as the Associate Degrees for Transfer. And that's essentially a guaranteed spot to a CSU upon completion of requirements as well. And I myself am currently attending Cal State Long Beach, but I attended Long Beach for my undergrad as well as my teaching credential. And I've seen firsthand how taking classes at the community college helped me achieve my goals at the CSU. So I think it's also important to look at other partnerships, such as out-of-state ones, which Betzabel will discuss.
So we also partner with in-state and out-of-state privates. So when I have here listed in-state private, it's any institution that is not a member of the CCC, the UC, or the CSU. So in 2017, about 8,000 students transferred to a California private university or college came from the CCC, but also almost 16,000 students last year transferred to an out-of-state public or private institution. That's a lot of students. That's almost touching the amount of students that transferred into the UC system. And so although there isn't a universal transfer system such as the ADT program or the UC TAG program, a lot of individual private and out-of-state institutions will have partnerships with specific community colleges throughout the state that allow students to successfully transfer into that institution. And so I thought it was really important to point this out as well. And lastly, we really want to talk about the neighborhood.
Yeah, so California community colleges really do serve the community. So in 2016, by recommendation of the California Community College Board of Governors, the governor and legislator approved the Strong Workforce Program to support CTE, which is Career and Technical Education. And the purpose of this was to develop, the life of low-wage workers and really bring them to living wage jobs. So all of this money was funded into these accounts to really invest in our students here and to promote, community engagement and really improving the community. So we do see that community colleges don't just focus on higher education. It's more of a well-rounded higher ed and community system. And that brings in, the Rio Hondo Promise and how we serve to make sure that our students transition well into the community college system. So I'll discuss a little bit more about Rio Hondo Promise a few slides later on. But for now, we're going to tie it back to where we fit in all of this.
Yes. So lastly, we have graduate students and higher ed programs, such as myself and Amanda. So Amanda and I attend 2 separate higher ed programs here in California, and a lot of our classmates and peers work at other community colleges in the surrounding neighborhoods as well. And it's a great way for the graduate student to gain experience at the community college, since a lot of higher ed program graduates do transition themselves into the California community college system, but it also allows the California community college system to have extra staff members on board, and we will discuss the importance of our specific roles shortly. But I really did want to point out that we are going into these systems to help out our students. So now we're going to transition into talking about what do we specifically do at the community college. So myself, Betzabel, I am a student success coach at Rio Hondo College here in Whittier, California, which also happens to be my hometown. I specifically work in the general counseling department, and I work with our early alert program, which we use Hobson's Starfish Solutions online software to gather names of students who are in high need. So my job specifically is to outreach to these students and to provide them the resources and services that they need for their specific needs. Additionally, here in the counseling center, I do have to work frontline sometimes and screen students. So essentially, I make sure that when a student walks into our center, are they here for the right reasons? Is there another department that I should walk them to that can better assist with their needs? And additionally, I occasionally do co-instruct a Counseling 101 course, and that's always a lot of fun, and it's an amazing experience for myself as a growing professional in student affairs.
And I am also a success coach here at Rio Hondo College, but I'm housed in the First Year Success Center. And our center is dedicated to not only helping first-year students, but really any students who need help with financial aid, whether it's FAFSA or DREAM Act. We also help students register for classes. We help students with the whole enrollment process. We walk them through how to do orientation, assessment, and we schedule appointments for them to meet with counselors. Now, a portion of my responsibilities at Rio Hondo is also being embedded in these Counseling 101 classes that are specifically for our Avance students. And Avance is our first-year program, one of the events catered to our community and surrounding schools. And I'll discuss that also in some coming slides. In addition to that, I'm also a Year 2 Pathways coach, and I have a really neat layout of what our meetings and responsibilities look like. But for now, we're going to go over some terminology.
So student success coach are essentially paraprofessionals who work as first line of support for students and assist in the counseling division's efforts to meet the student success support program, or triple SP program as we call it. And most success coaches are specific students who are specifically enrolled in higher ed master's programs. It's one of the requirements to be a success coach. And Amanda will now go over the CGCA position.
Yeah, when I initially started my work at community colleges, I started at Los Angeles Harbor College, and there I was a career guidance counseling assistant. And I think it's important to note because the Los Angeles Community College District is composed of 9 different schools, and that's one of the largest districts in our area. So a CGCA, as we call it, performs a variety of paraprofessional counseling duties. So we help students at the walk-in counter. We sometimes administer subjectively scored tests for determining aptitudes, interests, abilities, and achievement. And then we have peer counseling or mentorship in the office. So going back to my role at Pasadena City College, I was really impressed because they have a first, second, and third year pathway, right? So these are for students who are in any phase of community college. And it's really interesting because it's kind of built according to career communities. So I'm specifically in charge of the second year students in the pathway that are a part of the social and behavioral sciences and the liberal arts community. And so when I had initially done my training, when I first got hired, I was really impressed by the coaching staff as well as the pathway staff and how they have this anatomy of a coach appointment. So I thought it'd be really helpful and beneficial to kind of list out the different, steps that we each walk through as we meet these students, because each coach does carry a caseload. And we want to make sure that we are providing this holistic support, making sure that they are successful in their time at the community college. So we start with a greeting and creating rapport. So we have, for second year program, for the second year pathway, we have SGEM, right? So that's our summer online orientation. So students don't get to meet with us automatically. They go through this summer jam, and it's a transition from the first year. So through this time, we start sending emails, and we start connecting with them and scheduling times to meet with them during the semester. So when we have this initial greeting, we use this time to really get to know, what they posted on Canvas, which is what they use to submit all of their online summer assignments. So we pull from their personal statement, we create notes so that the students do have this understanding that we're interested in their lives and we're interested in understanding their needs as community college students. So we greet and we create a report with our students. We ask them how their day is going, how their semester is going, and we follow that by addressing what needs to be discussed. So if a student is coming in to talk about pathways requirements, then we know that that's what we're setting our goals for the appointment for. So after establishing goals, we dive right into it. We talk about, what needs to be done. We create a plan with the student, but we also really want the student to start thinking about their thought process and really building their autonomy so that they have tools to be successful with or without us. And following that, we close up, we summarize what happened in the session, and we schedule either a follow-up appointment, or we refer them to an office, or we walk them somewhere. We make sure that the student feels much better than they did when they came in. And I thought it's a really neat approach. It has really good theory. So if you have questions about that, feel free to email me or ask me questions about that. But I think it's really important to understand that, as coaches, we still have our differences from counselors. So Betzabel is going to talk about the similarities and the differences between the two roles.
So coach role versus counselor role. So right off the bat, coaches are not counselors. So there are certain things that we are not allowed to do, and I will discuss them shortly. So what does the coach do? We are essentially a liaison between the counselor and the student. So as mentioned before, I screen students. So I walk them through the process of, hello, how are you today? What are you in here for? What do you need to speak to a counselor for? And the unique part is that sometimes students come in and their question actually does not require them to meet with a counselor. Sometimes it's something that I can very easily help them with, or I can show them how to do the process online, or sometimes it's not part of general counseling. Maybe they're part of a specific program such as EOPNS or the DSPS program, so I'll have to walk them over to a different department. Secondly, we do help students adjust to the cultural, academic, and social expectations of college, which ties into the fact that we host college skills presentations. So a lot of the coaches will host presentations and workshops for students to come in and discuss things such as time management, how to study. A lot of our first-year students are coming directly out of high school and may not know what time management looks like or what that even is. Additionally, a lot of our students have trouble with learning and coping with study skills and study habits, and it is our role to give students the information that they may not have received in high school or before that. And we do have this really unique role in the terms that we're not a tutor, we're not a counselor, but we're also not faculty, even though we do co-instruct some of the counseling courses. So it's very, very unique. But if we look on the right-hand side and we look at the counselor role, the counselor is the person who creates the official ed plan. So if the student comes in and they know they want to transfer to a CSU or a UC or a private institution, the counselor is the person who walks them through that process in terms of letting them know these are the courses you can take, these are the options you have. I'm going to dump them into your ed plan for you to have on record. And they also help them with major decision making. So what do you want to major in? What kind of degree do you want to graduate with? Those are the conversations that are typically had with the counselor in one-on-one settings. That's another difference too. Counselors see our students in one-on-one private settings, whereas coaches, we typically hang out with students out on the front lines or in the waiting area or in the computer labs. Additionally, counselors assist students with more sensitive experiences and stories. So a lot of students come in and have something's going on at home, something's going on in their personal and private life. And since coaches are not licensed counselors, we do not have that counseling degree yet or that higher ed degree yet, we cannot actually touch those sensitive topics with students for liability reasons, and that's where the counselor comes in. So if, again, I screen the student and I can tell they've been having something's going on at home, I will direct them to the counselor instead of taking it further with the student myself, and that protects essentially myself and the student as well, and the institution, of course. So together, counselors and coaches do share some experiences with students. So one, we offer mentorship. Amanda and I this is now our second year at Rio Hondo College, and we can tell you that there are students that we met our first year here and that we are so very close with. We see them in the hallway, we say, hey, how are you doing? How's your boyfriend? How's your partner? How's school? How's soccer team? And so we offer that mentorship for our students, and that makes me very, very, very happy. But we also make referrals. So as mentioned, sometimes we have to accept that we cannot provide the help that the student needs right at that moment, but we know someone that can. So even though I, the coach, can't, the counselor here in the general counseling department can't, we know someone on campus that can, and we're going to take that student to that referral or to that service. And lastly, we do assist with the navigation of the campus and college structure. So us as the staff and faculty, we know the campus really, really well, the ins and outs. We can direct students to where they need to go and show students what it's like to be in college. And that's essentially our goal, working at a community college. So that was kind of a general overview of the coach role versus the counselor role. But now I'm going to kind of transition into demographics of the colleges we serve, since Amanda and I think it's very important to discuss this. So, as mentioned, we work at different community colleges. So location really does matter. So to give you some background on who we serve, the reason why we really want to talk about this is because who you serve will determine the kinds of programs, initiatives that are created and implemented at your specific college campus. So here at Rio Hondo College, our enrollment is about 22,000 students each semester. And we are an Hispanic serving institute. So we have 82% Hispanic and or Latinx identifying students.
And Pasadena City College serves close to 30,000 students each semester, and 51% of those students identify as Hispanic or Latinx, and 24% identify as Asian. And then when I was at Los Angeles Harbor College, approximately 10,000 students were served each semester, with 52% Hispanic and Latinx students identifying as such. I think it's really important to note as well that these schools are probably about 15 miles or less away from each other, yet their enrollment numbers, their demographics look completely different. So I think that speaks to the diversity of California, as well as the diverse types of programming that we need. And, you know, I think when we think about programming, it's important to start having a conversation about theory.
Before we get into theory, I did want to touch upon that each of these three community colleges listed here are in a different district, and that may also influence programming and initiatives that get implemented, since each district has a different college board, a board of trustees essentially, that governs the college. We did only list enrollment numbers and ethnic and racial diversity at these colleges, but I do want to point out that different institutions will look at different statistics in order to cater to their programming. So some institutions focus on the social economic status of their students, the median age of students, and even more so, not every community college in California offers the same certificates and degrees. Therefore, one institution may focus heavily on their specific specialty versus another one. And we see that a lot here at Rio Hondo College.
Yeah, we have that bachelor's degree in automotive technology. And then even thinking about the age range of the students that we serve, Rio Hondo specifically has a center for career and reentry. You know, that's something that you might not see on all campuses, but it goes back to knowing your community and knowing who is benefiting from your services.
Yep. So that was, we really wanted to point this out. It's really important to the work Amanda and I do, but we do want to touch upon theory. So before we actually get into the theory, into practice, the reason why we really wanted to talk about theory as well for this presentation is that as graduate students, when we're in class, we read a lot of theory. We will read a lot of different theories from different student affairs professionals throughout the years. And sometimes we ask ourselves as graduate students, how can I actually put this into practice? Or have I seen this on my campus and I haven't actually even thought to think about how it applies to the theory I have read? So we thought it's important to bring in some theory into what we do. So we were going to discuss Vincent Tinto specifically. So Vincent Tinto states that a sense of belonging is extremely important to a student's persistence in college. Sense of belonging is shaped by campus climate and the perception of belonging that comes from the students' daily interactions with students, staff, faculty, and also specifically the message the campus gives about their belonging.
So the message at Rio Hondo is very community oriented, right? We want students to be successful even before they start taking classes here. We have our summer bridge program and the Promise, which target high schools, local high schools in the area, as well as first-time college students. So my role is, in the summer, facilitating these workshops about financial aid or about time management or about how to communicate with an instructor or how to email an instructor. But it doesn't end there. The work doesn't stop there, right? It continues through the fall and through the spring. So in the fall, as I mentioned earlier, we have success coaches like myself embedded in Counseling 101 courses. So while it is a counselor, mainly teaching the class, I'm still sitting in class. I do lectures, I do activities, and I use that time to really connect with students so that when we meet one-on-one, they already feel comfortable with our relationship and they see that I am interested in their progress as students. So I think it's important that, we actually show students that we're not just saying, oh yeah, we're here to support you, but we're actually showing up. We're in your class, sitting here, supporting you, making sure that you have all of the resources you need to achieve whatever educational goal you have in mind. And that kind of takes us into the second theory.
So Tinto, once again, states that students need assistance in their transition into college. Many students who do not seek it or find this type of assistance, unfortunately, leave college. And this comes from Tinto's theory about leaving college. And leaving college means leaving the institution of higher ed and not returning. So when we think about the California Community College, Amanda mentioned we serve 2.1 million students as a state. And individually, just here at Rio Hondo College, we serve 22,000 students a semester. That is a lot of students. And this is a mixed combination of full-time and part-time enrolled students. But those numbers are important because unfortunately the counselor to student ratio is not as high as we hope it to be. And so we are highly impacted. So when a student comes into the counseling center, many times, unfortunately, there's not an appointment available for them, or there's too many students waiting for an appointment that specific day, and therefore they cannot speak to someone. But the unique role that coaches like Amanda and I have is that maybe that student doesn't actually need to meet a counselor to get the help they need that day. So as frontline staff, we can, again, screen the students. We can ask probing questions. How are you doing today? What's going on? What question did you have for a counselor? Maybe I can help you answer it. And so it gives the student the opportunity to connect with a staff member who knows the campus well, and also allow the student to feel that someone on this campus does care about their needs and their persistence in college. So that's the unique role of the coach, and especially for first-year students who are coming from, as Amanda mentioned, coming from the neighboring communities. We want students to feel like this is their home. Maybe it's not the home that they live in, but it's the home that they can come to school with, and we act as mentors and we give them the resources they need.
Yeah, and we really promote students being exposed to all of the different services in our one-on-one meetings in the First Year Success Center. So our students do have requirements in order to, continue to be eligible for the Promise. And I don't know how many of you have heard, but Rio Hondo recently announced a second year for free. But that does come with having completed, 24 units in your first semester. But in addition to the requirements that my students are responsible for, they do have to attend workshops. They have to attend 2 workshops in the semester. They have to meet with me twice, have to meet with a counselor and ensure that they have a comprehensive ed plan on file. And they also need to meet with a counselor one more time to follow up to see if there's anything else that they have questions for. So we really do push for this exposure to these resources so that we know that students get the help that they need and that they ideally stay in college and meet their transfer goals or whatever their educational goal is.
And myself, working with the Early Alert program and students who have high needs, I always tell my students, yes, you are an adult, you are in college, you are enrolled at a higher ed institution. And although this is your unique one-on-one experience and this is your education, no one else's, that does not mean that you have to take yourself and through your college experience by yourself. So I always let students know that there is someone on this campus that is going to be there for them. It may not be a counselor, but it may be a coach, it may be a front desk clerk, or it may be their peers. And I really try to let students know that, again, this is your individual journey. However, you don't have to walk through it alone. And I think that's what Amanda and I really try to do within our unique roles. So that transitions us into Amanda's, one of Amanda's and I's closing statement.
Yeah, so why are we hosting a webinar on this topic? You know, our work as student affairs professionals begins now with us as graduates working in California community colleges. Every day we interact with our students, faculty, and staff, and we see ourselves reflected in various roles on campus. You know, at one point we were the students. At this point, we're staff, and in the future, I know we strive to be faculty and management. And I think it's important to, you know, have all of these experiences as graduate students because we do want to make a difference. We want to be effective higher education or student affairs professionals, and that starts with the work that we're doing now. I feel like I've grown so much within my first year as a graduate student to now my third year, graduating in May. I feel like I'm confident about knowing what the role of a counselor is, and I see myself in that role and being really helpful and effective for my students.
Yep. And yeah, I do have plans. I do hope to work at a community college after I graduate from my master's program, and I believe that this unique role as a coach gives me the perspectives and the experience that I need to pursue my professional goals. And when we think about magnifying our lens, back to the theme of Careers in Student Affairs Month, is right now we're coaches, but soon we will fill in the shoes of the counselor and move on up the ladder.
Yep. So with that said, do you have any questions for us? Is there anything that we can expand on or elaborate on?
Okay.
Hi all, so I do have one question for you all to get us started. And just as a reminder to our attendees, you can use the questions tab in your GoToWebinar toolbar to pose any questions, or you can also use the chat feature. So the question that we have is, what motivates you all to work in a community college?
Yeah, so I'll go ahead and I'll go first. I see community colleges as an opportunity for education for anyone. And I think for me, it's a little bit more personal. I had a brother who went to community college before he transferred out. And more recently, my mom just started going back to school and she will be transferring. She just submitted her application for transfer. But to me, the community college serves any and everyone, no matter what your goal is. If you want more education, whether it's a degree or whether it's a certificate, the community college is a place for you. And I love the mission of the community college, and I'm really proud to be a part of it.
So very similar, but also very different. I decided to work at a community college because although I did not attend a community college myself, I went straight to the UC system. I always saw the community college as a place that needs a lot of help. So a lot of our students have high needs. A lot of our students are non-traditional students, and that's, I think, a beautiful thing. And it's something that you don't really get to see at the four-year institution too often. I do agree that the community college is a place for anyone to come and to reach their goal. And with that being said, is even though Amanda and I are in higher education, we're graduate students, we do respect the needs of our students, meaning not every student comes to the community college to transfer to a four-year institution, and that is 100% okay. No matter what the student's goal is, some students come in for a certificate, some students come in for an associate's degree, some students come in just to improve their reading or writing skills, and no matter what those goals are, we have a role in helping the student reach that goal. And so I think it's a beautiful experience working at the community college. I have built rapport with a lot of my students. So although I don't work with the Summer Bridge or the Avanza program this year, I did participate in the Summer Bridge in 2017. And a lot of my students that I met that first year, I see in the hallways or I see out in the quad. And it makes me very happy to see that they have slowly started reaching their goals, whether it was joining a program or joining a club or on their way to transfer. It just makes me really happy to see these students, and being a part of their journey, I think, is a privilege overall. It makes me feel very privileged to be a part of their academic goals and journey.
All right, so question from me, actually. Or if you can expand a little bit more on your experiences working in a community college, maybe share some of the experiences where you've used some of what you've talked about today, in those instances that you can share some of those experiences and how you've seen it benefit your students.
Yeah, sure.
All right, let me think about that a little bit.
Okay, I'll go.
Okay.
So we both mentioned that we co-instruct counseling, some of the Counseling 101 courses. So the Counseling 101 course is essentially a life skills course. So it's a course that we recommend to all first-year students to take their first semester, along with the English and math course. And so what I have been able to apply from my actual graduate program into the Counseling 101 course is a lot of those, like, what do college students need? And so looking back at Tinto and what allows persistence and what allows students to stay in college, we can actually give that information to our students. So sometimes a student it's not necessarily that they're not quote unquote smart enough. All our students are very intelligent individuals. It's that they may not have the time management skills, or they may not have the study skills, or may have not learned the study skills required to be successful in a college level course. So all our classes here are college level. We're at a higher ed institution. And so teaching our students that there's nothing wrong with you. We just need to work with your time management skills. We just need to, give you that little push that you need. And so that's what I really appreciate about co-instructing a Counseling 101 course. Aside from the fact that I never thought that I would be co-instructing a class so early in my program without even having graduated yet. And it gives me a really good experience. And I personally would love to teach the class upon graduation. And that's a very unique course specific to the community colleges. And that course actually began at one community college, and then other community colleges are now starting to implement this life skills exploratory course. So that's one thing, how I've applied grad school into practice, like what I actually do.
Yeah, and also going back to one of Tinto's theories, the one that we mentioned previously, it mentioned campus climate, and I feel like the First Year Success Center has done a lot, and our work there is, building, or not building, but adding a portion of the center to be the dream center, right? To really support our students who are undocumented. And I feel that, when I initially applied for First Year Success Center, I didn't see myself working with the DREAM Act, but I had to learn it. I knew that it was a need of our students. It's a very common application that students come in for assistance with, and making sure that I know how to properly, help students fill out and place numbers. And it's not just working with students, but it's students bringing in their families too. So really being there, really being supportive, and letting everyone involved know that this is a place for everyone, that this is a place for you. This is a place for you to feel comfortable, so we can talk about this sensitive information. And I think that's so impactful, and that definitely speaks to the theory about supporting students and really is helping them establish their sense of belonging on the campus.
Yes, and also with the whole thinking about how diverse our campuses are, a lot of community colleges actually do receive Department of Education grants. So I know Rio Hondo has received a HSI grant in the past and has used that grant to serve those students. Many other community colleges do the same, and I think it's misinformation that these Department of Education grants are specific only to four-year institutions, but they actually can be given and granted to community colleges to serve better their student populations. Thank you for your question.
Yes.
Okay, so those are all the questions that we have right now. Is there anything else that the two of you wanted to expand on a little bit from what you've discussed, or do you want to share a little bit more about your experiences working at your community college with our audience today?
There was one thing that I wanted to note. Success coaches or graduate student assistants, those aren't the only roles that graduate students play on community college campuses. I know a few graduate students who are student service professionals or who take on various roles within the college. So I just want to put that out there and know that this is coming more from our experience as coaches or as counseling assistants.
For any graduate students that may be tuning in, if you're interested in seeing what the community college is like, actually the way I got, I even applied for this position was because I did an informational interview with the former dean of counseling, and it was for the NUF program. So I'm a NASPA undergraduate fellow alum, and I did an informational interview with the dean here in this office. And that I really appreciated what he had to say about the community college and specifically here at Rio Hondo. And so that led me into applying to this position. But if any graduate students are interested in or aren't sure if the community college is a place for them to work in, or if they haven't explored it, I would definitely say reach out to someone that draws your attention, ask for an informational interview, or ask if a lot of community colleges do allow graduate students to do counselor observations with the approval of the dean of that department. So that's one way that you can get involved, is by observing an actual counseling session with a counselor and a student, informational interview, or just visiting your local community colleges and seeing what kind of programs are there. Is there one that draws your attention? So here we do have the Dreamers office, but there are other community colleges that have very specific offices that are unique to their campus, and that may be something that other graduate students may be looking for. So I would definitely say check it out. I love community colleges. Thank you.
Well, on that note, I'm going to thank the two of you so much for presenting on this topic today. I personally enjoyed it immensely, and I hope that the rest of our audience did as well. Before we hop off our call today, I just want to remind everyone that our next webinar for Careers and Student Affairs Month will be next Tuesday, October 23rd at 12:30 p.m. Eastern Time. This webinar, titled Invasion of Privacy, Showing Up as Practitioners Beyond Campus, will be presented by Kirby Gibson, Karis Gillespie, Michael Riley, and Sean Chrysler, all of Syracuse University. And so we hope that you will join us then. You can find all of those details at naspa.org/Careers and Student Affairs Month. And we look forward to to present to you all then as well. So thank you again so much for sharing your time with us today. If you have any questions, additional questions for Betzabel and Amanda, their contact information is on the screen, and the recording of this webinar will be available on the Careers and Student Affairs Month webpage on naspa.org by the end of today. So thank you again all so much for joining us today, and we look forward to working with you again in the future.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.